clicky thing? Whatever the appropriate term for that beast is.
It clicks.
Yeah, look at that.
It clicks.
Thank you, sir. So for 4.1, our focus was on hardening all of the new features that we had brought in. Our focus was on making that a good product and making that enterprise ready. Now that we feel we've done that, we're certainly going to continue to focus on hardening that product and making it even more enterprise ready. But there are a lot of opportunities out there that we have been seeing both in the research community with DFC and iPlant and others as far as requesting the access to more complicated and more interesting services. And we have seen this, as I said, within iPlant and DFC with what they describe as their indexing framework. And we feel that is a great opportunity for the consortium to capture that momentum, gather that technology, repackage it, and create some reference implementations that will allow us to reach out to external services. So we'll be able to reach out to things like Elasticsearch or Agenda Triple Store or anything else that may capture your imagination and allow you to better integrate iRODS within your infrastructure and provide a better platform for you to develop greater applications on top of it. So our focus for 4.2 is going to be on external services. We're going to focus on the messaging framework, as I said. So it'll give us this enterprise service bus, which I'm sure you're going to hear a lot more about later today, to communicate to these external services. We're going to have a pluggable rule engine, which is going to give us the ability to leverage different languages and different technologies to enforce your policy. We're going to provide some potential reference implementation, so you'll be able to install iRODS alongside of some of these other services that will allow you to build these new and exciting applications. And then, of course, we're going to have our usual architecture updates as well as requests for enhancements from our membership and the community at large. So the messaging framework. We want to consolidate this energy within the community and start providing some standards. So moving from a single implementation, it is our goal to make iRODS a set of standards to which people will actually write their applications. So iRODS will not be the iCommands, and iRODS will not be a web interface. iRODS will be the wireline protocol that you are speaking that will allow you to reach these services. And this is one step in that direction. So we want to standardize on a serialization technology. How are you going to take this data and pack it up to ship it over the wire? We need to standardize on what message formats are going to look like for your different services and what topics are going to be available on this message bus. So if you are writing a particular component against this set of standards, you should be guaranteed a certain kind of behavior by the system at large. And on top of that, we want to provide these package reference implementations for these different services. The new rule engine. So we will be having a pluggable rule engine, which you'll see much more about today as well. It'll allow you to leverage other technologies such as Python and C++ in order to write your rules. So in Python, for instance, there is a very rich set of libraries out there for performing all kinds of science, whatever that may be. You would no longer need to package those in microservices in order to reach that functionality, like GDAL or one of those other libraries for GIS. Combining the new rule engines with the dynamic policy enforcement points is going to give us an extremely fine-grained set of controls around all of the operations within iRODS. A dynamic policy enforcement point is a pre- and post hook, if you will, around every plugin operation within iRODS. As everything becomes a plugin, the API itself becomes a plugin. You will have a hook for pre-put and post-put or any of the other new functionality that you have added. You drop in a new plugin API, you will have a new policy enforcement point around that operation. Coupling that with the pluggable rule engine, we'll be able to write a super speed, if you will, C++ rule engine that will allow you to, say, like audit every operation within iRODS. And on top of that, we'll be able to create a custom rule engine specifically for this purpose. So you can have a rule engine running sidecar along the other rule engines that will do nothing but send messages over the AMQP message bus, or log and audit everything that is happening in your grid so you have absolute surety that all of your policies have been enforced. And once we have those two things, we'll start focusing on some reference implementations. There's a wealth of technology in the iPlant, and as well as DFC and HydroShare that we need to start standardizing and bringing in and packaging as sets of services that you can come to the consortium to start standing up your grids, to do your proof of concepts, and to demonstrate the capabilities that we're providing. So we'll focus on things like indexing with Elasticsearch and Solar, notifications. Your services need to be able to notify iRODS that something has happened, that your data has been indexed, that it has arrived as a replication somewhere else. And these things will also allow us to write richer clients because the clients can be sure that things have happened in the grid without having to pull, for instance. Your data has arrived. Now you can put your metadata. Now you can put your ACLs. And you want to be sure that this has happened before you can perform the next step in your pipeline. Notifications will give you that capability. There's also the need for external metadata. We need hierarchical metadata. We have specific formats. You need to use a document store. You'll be able to reach these services as well over the message bus, and we need to provide some implementations of that to demonstrate it. And the last thing, as I said, is auditing. I mean, this is going to be very important as iRODS scales and moves forward, that we need to be sure what we're claiming is happening within the grid is, in fact, happening, and auditing will give us that. And the last thing that we're going to be focusing on is, of course, our architectural updates. So the roadmap is open. We are asking the community to show up. You can show up on GitHub, capture your ideas in an issue. We can mark it for discussion. It will wash through the technical working group, and as long as everything is all lined up, we can break that out into separate work items, which you can also track on the iRODS namespace in GitHub and participate in the entire conversation. Some other architectural changes that you heard about from Terrell are we're going to move to CMake. We have a very artisanal build system right now, and that needs to be standardized and smoothed out. So building all of these external plugins is just as easy as building iRODS, and this should not be a challenge. And we're also going to move to dynamic linking. So right now, much of iRODS is statically linked, and there's lots of duplication of code. ILS is considerably larger than it should be for what it does. So we need to separate the client from the server. All those objects need to be linked only once where they're supposed to be. And those shared objects can march appropriately with their own versions. So that will actually provide much more flexibility on the client and the server. And of course, input from the membership and community. So this is what we're asking for right now, is to show up and participate in what iRODS 4.2 will become. Any questions? When? Of course you would ask when. No, I mean, right now we do not have a roadmap, so it's really hard to, it's really hard to put. But 9 months to a year, I imagine. I mean, we're in a pretty comfortable cycle at this point, so. Yeah. And it's hard to, not show up to the users group without something new to show. So you always have that.
So 9 months' time, would that be version 5? Or would it be version 4.3?
4.2? Yeah. 2 for 2, okay. Well, thank you, everybody.